Good morning, chat. I've come to find out that one of my favorite mornings so far this year, or has been starting to become one of my favorite mornings, is golfing in the morning. I think it's nice to go out there, practice on your game, come back, shower up, get something to eat, and start off your day. I have a final today, so hopefully I get to pass that. Feeling pretty good, so we'll see how that goes. Without further ado, let's get into it. I had missed yesterday, so we're gonna make up 2 for today. But without further ado, let's get into it. The cluster of islands known as the Trobriands lies 100 miles east of Papua New Guinea, in the middle of the Solomon Sea. The archipelago is tiny, home to 40,000 people. It's isolated and tropical. The people living there fish and farm much as their ancestors did thousands of years ago, and their ancestors' customs have proven remarkably durable. Even in the face of the inevitable encroachments of the 21st century, in the same way the makers take new models to the Arctic to test them under the most extreme conditions possible, social scientists sometimes like to stress test hypotheses in places such as the Trobriands. If something worked in London or New York and it works in the Trobriands, you can be pretty sure you're into something universal, which is what sent 2 Spanish social scientists to the Trobriand Islands in 2013. Sergio Garrido is an anthropologist. He had worked in the Trobriands before and knew the language and culture. Carlos Cruvilli is a sociologist. He spent the earliest part of his career testing the limits of transparency. Once he examined dozens of videotapes of judo fighters who had just won their matches to figure out when exactly they smiled. Was that the moment of victory, or did they win then smile? Another time he watched videotapes of people masturbating to find out what their faces looked like at the moment of climax. Presumably an orgasm is a moment of true happiness. Is that happiness evident and observable in the moment? In both cases it wasn't, which didn't make sense of our emotions are really a billboard for the heart. These studies made Crivelli a skeptic, so he and Garrido decided to put Darwin to the test. Garrido and Crivelli started with 6 headshots of people looking happy, sad, angry, scared, and disgusted, with one final picture of someone with a neutral expression. Before they left for the Trobriands, the 2 men took their pictures to a primary school in Madrid and tried them out on a group of children. They put all 6 photos before a child and asked which of these is the sad face. Then they went to the second child and asked which of these is the angry face, and so on, cycling through all 6 pictures over and over again. Here are the results. The children had no difficulty with the exercise. Then Garrido and Crivelli flew to the Trobriand Islands and repeated the process. The Trobrianders were friendly and cooperative. They had a rich, nuanced language which made them an ideal test case for a study of emotion. Garrido explained, to say that something has really surprised you in a positive way, they say it has ruptured my mind, or it has caught my mind. Then when you repeat that, you say, has this thing caught your mind? And then they say, well, no, this one is more like it has taken my stomach away. These were not people, in other words, who would be flummoxed by being asked to make sense of the emotional truth of something. If Darwin was correct, the Trobriands should be as good as the school children in Madrid at making sense of people's faces. Emotions are hardwired by evolution. That means people in the middle of the Solomon Sea must have the same operating system as people in Madrid, right? Wrong. Take a look at the following chart, which compares the success rate of the Trobrianders with the success rate of the 10-year-old at the Madrid school. The Trobrianders struggled. The emotional labels down the left side of the chart are the pictures of the people making different kinds of faces that Jarillo and Caravelli showed their subjects. The labels across the top are how the subjects identified those pictures. So 100% of the 113 Spanish school children identified that happiness face as a happiness face, but only 58% of the tribe-riders did, while 23% looked at the smiling face and called it neutral. And happiness is the emotion where there is the most agreement between the tribe-riders and the Spanish children. On everything else, the tribe-riders' idea of what emotion looks like on the outside appears to be totally different from our own. I think the thing that surprises us the most is the fact that what we think of in Western societies is a face of fear of somebody who's scared turns out to be recognized in the tri-brand islands more as a threat. Cravelli said to demonstrate, he mimed what is known as the gasping face. Wide open eyes, the face from Edward Munch's famous painting, The Scream. In our culture, my face would be like, I'm scared of you. Cravelli went on. In their culture, that is the face of somebody who's trying to scare somebody else. Is the opposite of what it means to us. The sensation of fear for a tribe-rider islander is not any different from the fear that you or I feel. They get the same sick feeling in this pit of their stomach, but for some reason they don't show it the same we do. Anger was just as bad. You would think, wouldn't you, that everyone in the world would know what an angry face looks like? It's such a fundamental emotion. This is anger, right? The hard eyes, the tight mouth, but anger baffled the tribe-riders. Just look at the scores for the angry face. 20% called it a happy face. 17% called it a sad face. 30% called it a fearful face. 20% thought it was a sign of disgust. And even 7% identified it in the way that nearly every Spanish school child had. Cravelli said they gave lots of different descriptors. They would just say like they're frowning, or they would use one of those proverbs that say it means his brow is dark, which obviously can translate he's frowning. They wouldn't interfere that means that this person is angry. To make sure the tribe-riders weren't some kind of special case, Carlio and Cravelli then traveled to Mozambique to study a group of isolated substances fishermen known as the Mawini. Once again, the result was dismal. The Mawini did marginally better than chance with the smiling faces, but they seem baffled by sad faces and angry faces. Another group led by Maria Gandron traveled to the mountains of northwest Namibia to see whether the people there could accurately sort photographs into piles according to the emotional expression of the subject. They couldn't. Even historians have now gone into the act. If you could go into a time machine and show the ancient Greeks and Roman pictures of modern day people grinning broadly, would they interpret that expression the same way we do? Probably not. As classicist Mary Baird writes in her book, Laughter in Ancient Rome. This is not to say that Romans ever curled up the edges of their mouths in a formation that would look to us much like a smile. Of course they did. But such curling did not mean very much in the range of significant social and cultural gestures in Rome. Conversely, other gestures which would mean little to us were much more heavily freighted with significance. If you stage a screening of the Friends episode for the Tri-Barian Islanders, they would see Ross confronting Chandler and think Chandler was angry and Ross was scared. They would get this scene completely wrong, and if you knew a Friends premiere in ancient Rome for Cicero and the Emperor and a bunch of their friends, they would look at the extravagant grimaces and contortions on the faces of the actors and think, what on earth? I'll take a pause there. This is one of the reasons why I enjoy reading, because you get to learn many new different things. The idea that what is so common sense to us when it comes to facial expressions, whether that being sad, mad, angry, happy, whatever the case may be, we all can recognize that. But if you're completely, outside of that realm, or you're isolated on an island. The way you communicate or the way you express yourself to these very niche group of people, or these group of people that are not surrounded by other group of people, it's completely different. They interpret it completely different. Now, I can almost guarantee that the main idea here is that what might be very common to us, to me, to you, is not technically the same for other people. Whether that be language, whether that be cultural foods, in terms of how to prepare, how to eat, right? And that just goes to show that we are all different. We all think differently. We all act differently. We all behave differently. But we should all accept each other in that kind of way, or better yet, try to understand each other, if that makes sense. They may not understand that this is angry, but how do they interpret that, and how can we adjust to that, if that makes sense? So yeah, I mean, what a really interesting idea and field of study that I would have never thought of. So yeah, I'll see you guys later today. Peace.